Great. That was an amazing panel, and I absolutely love that panel. And a lot of the things that were mentioned there, I'm going to talk about today. And I'll tell you a little bit about me. The reason why I'm calling this the malleable machine, because it is kind of a malleable. It's a very malleable tool that you can shape and use. And so, am I clicking or are you clicking? You're clicking. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, that's a wonderful picture of me, just in case you don't know who I am here. That is me. I ran a VR startup for 10 years. That just taught me all about startups, business, the challenges of getting something off the ground, working with really awesome people, breaking lots of rules. I led product at an AI startup for 2 years. So I actually led product for a tool that was an agentic system. So an agent is a large language model that has a role. It does something kind of special, and you link them together and you can create an agentic system. And we specialized in 3D pipelines so that you could create 3D worlds using natural language. I did that for 2 years. I got a chance to work with Meta, Google, HP, and Bento Box with my startup because it was a virtual reality motion capture software. So, and it's a VR product, so all of these folks have VR divisions and got to learn a lot about how these mega corporations work. I raised venture capital. All that means is I've managed to teach or trick rich people into giving me money. I got to tell you, that is the most stressful thing I've ever done, so I'm glad I'm not doing it anymore, and I'm really thankful to be here. And then I presented at places like Oculus Connect, and Oculus was bought out by Meta. So I presented at Oculus Connect, which is the largest VR conference on the planet right now. Augmented World Expo, which is the big AR conference. National Association of Broadcasters, because we were doing a new form of broadcast. So I have all this kind of background here, and just to give you some context, and then we're going to dive into the next slide. And this is it. AI has been thrust upon us. And the reason why I'm saying this is I don't think anyone here consciously chose to wake up one day with AI in front of us. It just kind of happened. Lots of research has been happening for 60 years or more, 80 years probably. I think it's 1940 something was when the really early stages of AI was started. And next slide. Some of us like it. I do. Some of us don't, and that's okay. And one thing that I'm realizing as we're all being challenged with, like, is AI taking my job? Is AI taking away my art? There's lots of reasons why people fear AI. Is it using too much energy? And I think it's okay for us to have those positions, and it's okay for people to also love it and enjoy it. And how do you interact with each other with that range of differences? And I think that's a big part of my job here. Working with creatives, working with technical people, there's a range of views. So we grapple with it because and I purposely put no, and I struck that out because we keep on trying to predict the future. And I've noticed this is a pattern. When new technology comes and we stand there and we say, and there's going to be this many jobs gone in this time frame, or we think we know where things are going. And I'll tell you what, I could tell you when I started co-started the VR startup in 2013 or 2015. I was worried that VR was going to be so big by 2016, I was going to miss the market. I was going to lose my chance to get acquired because I really knew that VR was going to change everything. And I kind of bring that skeptic's perspective with AI too. I do believe it probably will change everything, but I really don't know. And I think it's also important for us as people flowing through society to remember that we actually can't predict the future, which is the next slide, but we really don't know how, and even if we pretend we do. So a lot of people pretend they know the answers, but we really don't know. We can tell you what's happening, in the last 3 years, and we can see where the trajectory of where things are going. But I don't think when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, that's when suddenly people were super excited about AI because it started to feel natural and it started to feel really like this is something big. But prior to that, when I was at a place called Boost VC, and that was in 2014, it was an accelerator, and the accelerator invested in VR and AI startups. So I was talking to a lot of AI startups in 2014, and you could see I was like, AI, whatever, I'm not into that. And so you can see how things can change like that. So we don't know how things will change. And I suspect there'll be some more breakthroughs. And it will change things in another whole way of thinking around AI. So does AI need regulation? Of course. I think everything that's transformative, we should be thinking about what's the regulation behind the technology. And the reason why I think that is because we have to kind of unroll the technology in a way that a society can adapt to it. And it's moving so fast that I think regulation is a way for us to control the release of this technology. Who knows where the regulations will fall? Maybe there'll be data sovereignty regulations. Maybe there'll be regulations about, allowable use cases. But we do need to regulate. Is AI flawed? Yes, it is. Uses too much energy, it's trained in other people's work without consent, it's biased, and has an ideology. So, and there's way more things. It's also pretty awesome. And I think it's good to think about AI very clearly that, yes, it's got some things that aren't working for it. And rather than just hyping it up all the time, it's like, yeah, there's some things that aren't great, but it's pretty awesome. And the rest of my talk is going to be talking about more of what's really awesome about it. But I want to let people know that I'm not coming in here with like a hype agenda around AI. And it's not really good unless people are guiding it, right? And without people guiding it, it's not very good. So in some ways, it's awesome, but like when we're talking about the data training and the reinforcement learning, there's a whole process where humans are telling the AI what's right and wrong. Without the humans telling the AI what's right and wrong, the AI models aren't getting better. So again, we are really powering what's underneath this. But when you tune it just right, it writes code. It can predict protein folding, which is pretty mind-blowing if you think about that. That to me is the most exciting thing so far. It can look at X-rays. It can assess X-rays better than people. It can create drug formulations. It role plays scenarios. It thinks through a process, and this list could go on and on and on. And I think this is where the power is, and I think this is where, as people who are leveraging AI, we're the ones that get to control where it goes. And we can solve those really massive problems. So the thing that I'm actually afraid of is this classic thing. So I remember, I'm 48. So I remember, and I also had a few of those computers over there as a kid. And I didn't realize how far advanced I was in the digital world until I started to get to high school and realize there's only 2 of us that had, a Pentium or 46 computers, And I could see the digital divide. And then I started working at a nonprofit, and I realized, there were 3 people that really understood computers, but like 5 of us didn't understand computers. And now I still look at some people who have never embraced computers, like my older brother, who's not that much older. Him and I are miles apart, like miles apart in technological understanding. I'm really worried about the AI divide, because for those who get AI, it is a hyper accelerator in terms of what you can learn and what you can do. And those that don't, it's going to be a gap, and that gap's going to be bigger than the digital divide that was in the 90s. So that's why it's important to learn how to think about and use AI. And the key thing that I'm here to say is when I'm talking about AI, I'm actually talking about large language models right now, not all the other AI elements. And the reason why I focus it on large language models is because most of us here have access to ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude. There's so many other models. And I don't even include Grok as well in the list because I don't think that's a healthy AI. And actually, we're going to go to this next clip. But the premise of this the whole AI kind of started at the neural network. And I think it's really important to understand a little bit about this. There's an awesome video, a talk between Jeffrey Hinton and John Stewart talking about AI. And Jeffrey Hinton, University of Toronto professor who was one of the minds behind the neural network. And he talks about it here. And I'm just going to see if that will play.
Sort of the genesis of it was in the 70s, where you thought you were studying the brain. Is that correct?
I was trying to come up with ideas about how the brain actually learned. And there's some things we know about that. It learns by changing the strengths of connections between brain cells.
Wait, so explain that. What it says, it learns by changing the connections. So if you show a human something new, brain cells will actually make new connections within brain cells.
It won't make new connections. There'll be connections that were there already.
Okay.
But the main way it operates is it changes the strength of those connections.
Wow.
So if you think of it from the point of view of a neuron in the middle of the brain, a brain cell.
Okay.
All it can do in life is sometimes go ping.
That's all he's got. That's all
it's got. All it's got is it can, unless it happens to be connected to a muscle.
Okay.
It can sometimes go ping.
Okay.
And it has to decide when to go ping.
Oh, wow. How does it decide when to go ping?
I was glad you asked that question. There's other neurons going ping.
Okay.
And when it sees particular patterns of other neurons going ping, it goes ping. And you can think of this neuron as receiving pings from other neurons. Okay. And each time it receives a ping, it treats that as a number of votes for whether it should turn on or should go ping or should not go ping. And you can change how many votes another neuron has for it.
How would you change that vote?
By changing the strength of the connection. The strength of the connection, think of as the number of votes this other neuron gives for you to go ping.
Okay.
Lots of using the word ping there, but when you see, sometimes you'll see something about like a large language model, and it'll see how many parameters it has, right? Well, the parameters are the representations of the neurons, and the pinging that he's talking about here is that when patterns move through that, neurons ping, and those patterns of pinging over time, and then if you have people that go and say, that combination of pings wasn't a cat, it was a horse, then it changes the weights, and the weights are the connections he's talking about, the connections between the neurons. So you have weights, and you have these parameters, and it's way more, a lot more depth than that, but primarily, that's a fundamentally different way to think about how computers are processing things. So typically when you write a program, all the programs you see there are written like recipe cards. There is no kind of a neurological intelligence happening behind that. And when you're talking to ChatGPT, it has really nothing to do with recipe cards. It's looking at the patterns that it's been taught through its training, and it's giving you the answers based on the relationships that it's made during the training. And so when you're thinking about AI, and you're thinking about AI and how you're going to use it in your work, it's like, okay, well, what does that kind of behavior give us? It actually gives us a bit of soft skills inside of a digital framework. Not like think about that. Let's go to the next slide. So I kind of think, so we're using an LLM as an example. I kind of think these models are like clay, and you can shape clay in all sorts of different ways. So let's take a look at this one. Well, you could shape clay into a magnifying glass. I'll call that an analytical framework. So if you go to the next slide. So you're making sense of data, text, and images. So like, do you see any trends in my online community chat history? Well, the reason why I said this is because in my last company I worked for, we were doing competitive analysis. We looked at every single Discord channel of our competitors, and we broke down all of we copied all the data from Discord. We broke the terms of service, but that's what private startups do all the time. And then what we did is we ran that through and asked ChatGPT. Well, I talked to a friend of mine who was actually a qualitative researcher who gave me some processes to follow. I gave the AI the context of that quality research process, and then I started asking it to go through conversational data. And from that, what we ended up finding out is that there were more professionals willing to pay than hobbyists. And we also learned that what features that they were all asking for the product that they were building. So now we knew what features we needed to build to compete against our competitors and how to market our company towards professionals instead of hobbyists, just by understanding the competitor market. And that's using a real soft skill. You're using an analytical skill. Let's go to the next one here. Now this is a pencil. This represents, for me, generation of content. Let's go to the next slide. So it's like generate images, text, and code. So create an image of a lump of clay. So I used it here for this presentation. And I think this is an area that people are scared of because as an artist, you go, someone just prompted this, but I should have, should have hired somebody to make this out of clay for me. Well, probably not for this presentation because it's not practical for the budgets and the reality I'm in. But in a magical world, I could subcontract a clay person and they could make that for me, but that's not going to happen. And so this is a use case that would never happen in the real world that I'm getting to use right here. So is it taking an artist's job away? I don't know. That's a good question. Additionally, I find that when you start using prompts to create artwork, the depths of the prompts, what you're prompting. I was talking to Deco Dawson, a filmmaker in the community here. He was doing a Mid-Journey project. Mid-Journey is an image-based, it's a diffusion model. It's a little different than LLMs. But he said he counted 700 prompts for him to get this work done. So that was his artistic contribution to the process. So there's lots of places where the art still happens, and there are still challenges on having someone doing the illustration or the drawing at the end. Let's go to the next slide. This is to represent transformation. So LLMs are good at transforming things. So create a report from my notes. Okay, so quick example of this. I was at a conference in Montreal, and the executive director said, hey, could you give me a report on all the things that you attended? So what I ended up doing is I ended up taking photographs of the most important slides, and I quickly vibe coded, I'm going to show you a little bit about that later, a little app that let me take those photos. I went to the speaker, I took a picture of their badge, I tagged a few things, I added 1 or 2 lines of context, and it produced full reports for me. So that was taking 9 minutes versus me having to go back to my office when I'm done, going through, all my notes. Oh, who did I see? What did I talk about? And half the time I forget what I learned or what I went through. I'm sure many of us have been in that process. So being able to just transform the information around you into something very viable and taking away some of the pain of report writing was a really beautiful part of the transformation using LLMs. So let's go to the next one. It's also a decision maker and a judger. Now this has some controversy when you're submitting for resumes and you wonder why you don't get a reply back because of your jobs, because you're getting screened out. But here is something I've done. I've done this a lot, and I really love this part of LLMs. Is I will create I come from an adult education background as well. And so you learn about assessment and rubrics, and I'm sure anyone who's an educator knows all about this. You can actually provide the context of what a good rubric of assessment is and really teach the AI what you're looking for. Then you can put your own stuff into it, and it can give you a grade, right? And I'll tell you how I use that. I use it, we'll go to the next slide. I'll come back to that in a second, but this one's tools. So AI is great. Well, this is actually not just AI, but the AI understands enough that if you say, I want to search the web, right? Or I want to research the history of AI. Well, the AI understands, or the large language model knows the concept of search and looking for something. And then what happens is underneath the LLM, they build something called a tool. And because the AI understands that tool, search, it goes, oh, the user wants me to search. So the fact that a language model is taking your natural language, understanding you need to search, looks for the tool, and then starts searching is a powerful way that you can leverage that soft skill to pick up tools and do things for you. And when you start getting into deeper workflows, like agentic workflows, you're combining AIs that are kind of assessing the situation, choosing a tool for the right problem, using that tool, solving some sort of micro problem within the workflow. And you need that kind of soft skill intelligence to navigate these larger agentic workflows. So tool calls are really important. And then this is role playing. So let's go as a little. This one creeped me out. I got scared when I prompted that. I'm like, oh, that feels a little too scary. But this was really powerful for me because going back to the assessment thing I was saying about judging, I used the judging and the role playing to get this job. So when I applied for this job, what I did was they listed all the things that they wanted for this job. So I put this into an AI and I said, okay, understand the criteria of what this job requires. And then I said to the AI, but also you're a hiring committee manager and you have all this expertise, and what I want you to do is I want you to put me through mock interviews. And so I at the time I was in Montreal, I was walking up and down the canal in Montreal, like a crazy man, like I do. And I just started doing mock interviews. I did this twice, 3 hours each time. Every time I did an interview, they would say, okay, now give me judge me out of 10, how did I do? And it'd be like, oh, that was a 7.5. I'm like, okay, well, where did I miss it? And it goes, well, you didn't talk about open source enough and you didn't talk about on-premises AI enough. Okay. So then I'll reset the context so that the AI doesn't know what I just did. I'm going to re-implement it again. And I'll go walk. I did another session. I did another session with the talking part of ChatGPT. Although ChatGPT is not my favorite, I'd say I'm a Gemini person, but their vocal assistant is horrible. So when I do role plays, I do it in the ChatGPT tool, and I choose the actual, like, the ability to talk to it, that mode. So role playing is huge. Now, also, if people here are doing, I thought, customer service scenarios, trying to think about any situation like delivering bad news. I know that when I was horrible at French. I did not learn French when I was in Montreal, but I actually had it be a shop, like a butcher, using Quebecois French and practicing transactional experiences with it. This is a really powerful thing, and I think a lot of people don't leverage the power of the role playing. And when people talk about agentic systems, it's really a bunch of AIs that each of them have a different role, and you really give it you imbue it a role. We'll go to the next piece here. So now I'm going to show you this idea that combines a bunch of this stuff together. And I did this today, this morning, because Gemini 3 came out this morning. So if we can go to that. Okay, if you go to go to the AI Studio. Go to AI Studio. Okay, go to on the left says back to start. Go to your apps and do the AI Universe Explorer. Okay, so just continue to the app. This is not the one, but this will work anyway. So first of all, I want you to move this around. And so I said, hey, it would be really cool. I know, for example, as educators, you might want to create some interactive experiences that your students or learners can explore. Go click on the sun. Yep. So you can see here the sun is the neural network, right? That's the thing that does ping. That's at the top of the whole AI umbrella. Why don't you click on one of the blue orbiting? There we go. So this is generative models. And click on the moon of one of these general models here. So you can see at many of the conversations today, we're talking about all parts of the AI process. And the ability for let's say, as an instructional designer, wanted to prototype some rapid tools that can, like, keep on clicking on a few of them. You're going to see, you can even click on deep dive analysis here. I might be out of credits. We'll find out if you click on deep dive there. So really what I did is I said to Gemini, here's all the hierarchy of how AI works. You have neural networks, and then you have transformers. These guys are way smarter here. About some of these guys on the previous panel have more history of it, but I did some research on it, and diffusion models. Now you can learn about diffusion models by exploring this universe, this AI universe, which is basically a hierarchy of information just presented in a different visual way. And I know when I was used to doing e-learning content development, half the time you're trying to find interesting ways to allow learners and students to explore data. So in this example, you can see there's a little prompt on the left there. It says make changes, add new features, ask for anything. You see that at the bottom there? Keep going down. There you go. You go left, left. There you go. Right there, in there. Yep. So what I would like you to do just for now, just say, make this look cooler. Because I think it needs to look cooler. And then hit the, there you go. So basically what after you've iterated and you've explored, like I want the information to be in this universe approach. I want the sun to be the center. I want planets to represent the second hierarchy of information. I want the moons of the planets to represent their like sub ideas. And you get the concept. You can do things like, okay, now you understand how it all works, which took me about half an hour to do. This will now just use this AI's idea of what cooler is, which is probably some fairly generic idea of cooler, and which is okay because I didn't say make it look like Tron, which you can do that too. But the idea is that if you're building tools, this is using a large language model. It's using tools. It's using natural language to understand what cooler is. It's trying to then actually analyze and think about what is cooler, so it's doing some transformation underneath it all. All those things that I was saying about how to think about AI, this tool is just right now doing it. Click on the thinking part there. You see where it says thinking? And you can see how basically all the kinds of things that I was walking through of how to think about AI, this vibe coding platform is really doing a lot of them. And it's using, this is literally an agentic framework underneath doing analysis, transformation, programming. Programming is a form of generation, right? So the idea is that when you think about AI, you need to fundamentally know what it does really well. And then when you're prompting here, you have to think about it. Is this an analysis thing? Am I asking it to search or use a tool? Am I asking it to transform something? Am I asking it to role play something? This already has a role play built in. The role play it has built in is it's an expert application developer. So if you just scroll up there, John, and click on thinking again to close it at the top there, down thought for 97 seconds. Yeah. Now you see it's thought through and it's changing the index.html. It's actually changing the code base. And if you click on the code at the top beside preview, up top, right, yeah, you click out there, you can see what's happening underneath the system while it's developing the tool live. And so the idea is if you understand how AI works, when you come to some of these new tools that are coming up, you know what to think about while you're prompting these tools. And one of the things I realized over time is that I thought AI solved every problem, but actually what I really needed to know is like what do large language models do well? What do diffusion models do well? And you start finding what they do well, and then when you're presented with a way of leveraging it, you're bringing the right prompts in, you're bringing the right context, you're understanding how to build tools. So that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today. If there are any additional questions, I can answer some questions. But now here you have a cooler model. If you can click on it, there you go. It's made it look like Tron. That's what cool is to this Gemini 3. But you can see already the ability to start building learning tools and processes with AI is at our fingertips. And I just wanted to present that. So thank you very much. Yes. Now, if anyone here is a company that does AI training, is a company that wants to use AI in their work. So for example, they want to do some workflow experiments in how to make things more efficient with their administration, or if there are people that want to figure out how to use AI for production projects, like I was talking to a person earlier that we're using AI to figure out how to leverage this LED wall better. I am announcing some project funding that is available. It's matched funding. It's happening on the 26th of November. There are some seats still available. You'll be able to apply to New Media Manitoba. We'll assess projects, and then we'll be distributing funds. My role is to administer that process. So it can be anything from trainers who want to provide training services, to companies that want to commercialize or adopt it inside of their own workflows. And there are many resources around this project that you can leverage. So you should really click on that if you really want to leverage that. So thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for coming. I think it was a very